Our first module is going to focus on analyzing the top NHL Draft 2026 prospects who are all fighting for a chance to play in the pros. In this module, we'll walk through the key question you're going to answer, key statistics you'll use in the analysis, how to source and analyze prospect data, and the story you'll build after you analyze the data. So, let's jump in. In this lesson, we'll review the big question, which is, who are the top incoming prospects for the NHL 2026 draft? But before we get too far ahead, let's take a beat. Is this a good question? If you ask me, not really. It's directional, but it's also too high level, somewhat vague, and leaves too much room for interpretation. So let's take another crack at it. Here goes. Who are the top 10 forward incoming NHL 2026 draft prospects ranked by points per game? This isn't perfect, but it's better. The new elements give us more that we can use to answer the question. For example, you now have a specific number of players, that is, 10. You also have a filter for positions, forward, and you have a metric to use for measuring the forwards, points per game. If you think forward, you'll likely sketch out a mental workflow, like the following. Get the data of the top-ranked minor league players. Be sure the stats include games played and points at a minimum. Rank the players by points. Create a calculated column for points per game. Sort by points per game in descending order. Filter on the top 10 players. Now you could stop there, but with any professional sports league and statistical analysis, you need to continue to think through the assumptions behind answering this question and figure out your methodology. For example, there are multiple minor league and amateur hockey league systems that feed into one NHL league, and each league is slightly different. The NHLE provides what is tantamount to a conversion score that you can use to standardize points per game from different leagues into a standard representation. So let's go back to that high-level workflow and adjust it a bit. Get the data of the top-ranked minor league players. Be sure the stats include games played and points at a minimum, but also include goals, assists, and PIM, so you can gauge where a player may be strong, weak, or undisciplined. Rank the players by points. Create a calculated field for points per game, which is points divided by games played. Add a new column for NHLE and add it in for each league. Create a new calculated column for adjusted points per game. Sort by adjusted points per game in descending order. Start your analysis, and now begins the fun. The EP Draft Center has limited raw hockey statistics on minor league players. For example, their standard view includes games played, goals, assists, points, and penalties in minutes. However, with just this limited set of raw statistics, you can calculate some per-game statistics. That is, goals per game, assists per game, points per game, and PIM per game. You can also apply the NHLE score to points per game and get a standardized way of looking at productivity. At this point, your analysis might produce the top 10 forwards ranked by points per game. But by including goals per game, assists per game, and PIM per game, you begin to get a second-level perspective on a player's strengths and weaknesses. You begin to see where a player could be a playmaker or goal scorer. Thus, align players strategically to other players' strengths or weaknesses. This is the value of a simple summary heat map. You can see where and how players' games and styles differ. Let's start with the high level, a heat map view of the production statistics. A method we use as part of our initial exploration of data is to create a heat map view with raw and calculated statistics in it. For example, after creating quartiles of the top prospects, we created this heat map using mostly per-game statistics. The table is formatted and sorted on the adjusted points per game column. Another higher-level analysis is how the quartiles differ. An easy way to see how they are different is the power of categorized averages. For example, we're mostly concerned with the adjusted points per game as our key stat. So how different is that stat across our prospect quartiles? After you create the quartiles and get the average of each quartile, you can create a simple column chart, which you can see here. You may find more, but we have two key takeaways from the above. First, there is a significant gap between the elite quartile and the others. Remember, we're taking the top 100-ish prospects globally and comparing them. Second, you now have an average within each category, so you can further use that as a gauge to see who's above or below the quartile average. These are baselines that help you see the best of the best. The final analysis reverts to our earlier comment on outliers, which is where interesting stories live. What we found is not a surprise if you've been tracking so far. Ivar Stenberg is on the extreme right of the cohort. thus is our outlier. But what's interesting is if you follow the signal on prospects, we've been hearing a lot about 𝐬𝐮𝐻 McKenna, but not as much about Ivar Stenberg. So is there a story here? Yes. Would we want to do a bit more research? Definitely. And for us, we'd be looking at the top 3 outliers we called out earlier. That is Stenberg, Hurlburt, and McKenna, to give each one a fair shot at being the true outlier. Let's dive into some of the key analytical takeaways that could make for an interesting story. An initial theme is the international nature of the prospects. Using the dataset we pulled from elite prospects, there is a diverse set of countries represented here. This translates into different development programs, different styles of play, ways of living and cultures, ice surfaces, quality and sizes, and much more. A second theme are the top 10 forwards, which directly answers our big question. It's a comparison of the players themselves and maybe analyzing what teams most need the skills these prospects bring to the table. Lastly, a third potential theme would be focusing on the outliers. Honestly, I think this is where we would land. We'd do a treatment of the top 3 forwards, but quickly move to the outlier. Why? It's fun, more simple for an audience to engage with, and frankly brings Sweden, who contribute 10% of the NHL's players, into a more prominent frame. Hopefully you learned something as you followed along, and if you want to learn more, then definitely check out the link on your screen. We have lots more on this topic in our sports, data science, and storytelling living course, and we have a ton more content and courseware on our website. If you're not a part of the DataPunk media community, then be sure to join. It's free and we're growing very quickly into a global community. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and like us here and hit the notification button so you stay up to date with all our latest content.